Goldman Sachs, as far as I can remember, used to invest in Microsoft, and they used to recommend Microsoft, and they used to play along with this company. And this is really interesting because now, since October, I think around October 5th, the company was complaining or worrying about Microsoft having to like split the company or to basically do something, because they were saying this company is just going nowhere, especially because of the mobile platforms. And Microsoft is now trying or hoping or uttering something about bringing Windows Phone 7 to the tablets, because Windows 7 is too heavy for any of the mobile platforms. But what happens now, if they don't have copy and paste, they don't have tethering, very basic things that all the other platforms have got by now. And they have no chance of really catching up in this space. I also found a post about CES 2011, I suppose. It's in January usually, every year in January. They expect lots of dev tablets to be presented to the public once running Windows, which will probably never hit the market because Android is really saturating everything. It's just everywhere. They activate a third of a million devices per day now, which is about 100,000 per year. That's a lot of Linux. You have to remember it's based on Linux as a kernel, just like many operating systems like Ubuntu or Fedora, but this one is kind of restrictive. And of course, Chrome OS is in the news in a very major way.
I mean, just my very quick observation. It wasn't rocket science to predict that the Kin was going to be a failure even before it was released. You could tell by reading the spec sheets and the people that had got their hands on a preview of it that it wasn't going to be a success. I don't think anybody could have predicted that it would be killed by Microsoft so quickly. But certainly, I don't think anybody predicted it to be. Yes, but yeah, 42 days.
Yeah, I heard today they're going to move. I'm used to calling it Vista Phone 7. It's Windows Phone 7. They're going to bring it to China sometime soon. I was making a joke. I basically say all the e-waste usually goes to China at the end. I'm just saying they send it to China because the wording in the headline was bringing it to China. And I was just saying something like, oh, just put the Kin on the same boat,
Well,
try to make use of the metals and stuff.
I don't think they'll get anywhere over there either. But I've made the comment, and I made this comment years ago as well. I'm sure Roy, you said something very similar, or you've been down the same lines. Yeah, Microsoft is fighting a battle now on so many different fronts. In terms of tech, and they've got so many competitors and so many different and unique products coming out to challenge either what they've got coming out in the foreseeable future or already got out on the market. And I think it's fighting a losing battle now. It always puts me in mind of an episode, something out of Starship Troopers, where you have a couple of Marines surrounded by a horde of aliens, and you can't shoot off enough rounds to get all of the aliens back, because all these products and companies are coming in and they're producing their new products. And the market's moving, the market's changing, and Microsoft's being left behind because it doesn't know which direction to move into. And that's my view of it. I mean, the Kin was the start of the proof of that. They just hadn't grasped, I don't think,
what about the Zoom? You have to remember, it was kind of based on, I'm not sure I think it's a hybrid operating system, which was partly based on the so-called IP of the Zune, but it wasn't exactly the same operating system, but it was something that's based on it.
Well, I mean, to Zune's credit, they had a few big issues. I believe it was New Year 2009, or it might be in 2008, when the Zune had a failure where it on the turn of the millennium it just crashed and hung. And it had a few issues, sort of Xbox 360-ish type issues, I would best describe it as.
I remember 2008 or 2007, and I have this in my memory. They had issues with the play button. It would get stuck or something, and they had to issue a firmware update, which means that they changed the software side to fix the issue with the button. So I'm not sure if they found a hack to basically fix broken hardware, or maybe it just shows how incompetent Microsoft is when it comes to even developing software. So they basically had to fix the device on the go.
Well, I mean, We had similar issues as well with the 360 and the red rings of death. I mean, that created a massive fuss at the time as well. I believe that's sorted now. I could be wrong, but I think what surprises me about the Zune is that Microsoft kept it going for so long. I don't know any figures of alleged sales of the
They have the
Zune, but
HD now. The
yeah.
HD is.
And I mean, it's blatantly obvious to anybody, even those that aren't interested in technology and the different options out there. It's blatantly obvious that Microsoft didn't capture the market with the Zune, because nobody's heard of it. Certainly, the mainstream users that I speak to over here had never heard of the Zune. So it surprises me that they kept it going as long as they did, and especially when you look at the kid and they pretty much wiped that out, immediately. But then that's Microsoft, and going into the new year, I can't see anybody particularly getting excited about any Microsoft products. That I certainly haven't seen any Windows Phone 7 excitement either from developers or users. And please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
Now, in a sense that it's not that exact. I mean, it will sell a few more units, but it basically didn't get the momentum it was supposed to get. And the reason they had to sell lots of these phones and they had to try and spend. Well, just in marketing, they spent like $500 million. Did they eventually spend this type of money by now, or is it still being spent?
That's a big.
They have to show the developers that they have something to develop for, that they have a market user base to address. And I think they completely failed to do that. They don't even mention any numbers about the phone. And in the previous show, we spoke about these videos where you see them repeatedly as a kind of a part of the script. They have to avoid talking and saying anything about the numbers, which some speculate are less than 1 million. It's been about a month since a debut, and they probably have sold less than 1 million phones, and basically momentum's run out, so they might sell 100,000 a month. It's completely atrocious. They cannot get developers to do anything for it.
I see it as a bit of a standoff, just from my sort of very, very basic area of the consumer market. This is talking to my peers and friends. I think I see a bit of a standoff. Users aren't wanting to dive in feet first because they don't see the developers creating for it, and developers don't want to dive in feet first because they don't see users buying it to sell their applications to, and it's a bit of a sort of stalemate. That's the main. I mean, that's putting aside all the issues that are lacking, all the facilities that are lacking from the phone itself, like you said earlier, tethering, and cut, copy, and paste. So I think for that reason alone, like I said, for the kid, like many people said, in fact, I don't think there was one person who writes about technology on the net that didn't have the kin as a failure. I can't see this lasting. Now, it brings me on to a very interesting point, because I wanted to bring this up with you before, Roy, and I read this, and I can't remember where I've read it, but it was about developers that have released applications for the Windows Phone 7 and put them onto the marketplace or its equivalent. Now, apparently, they don't find out their returns on sales and get their paycheck effectively until February. Firstly, can I confirm with you if that's right, if you've heard anything like that? I was told it was February, and I believe it was Microsoft Watch that made the reference to it.
Is it still going now? Is it Nicholas who's right?
I don't know, but now I'm sure I saw the reference on Microsoft Watch which went along the lines of any developers that had pushed their applications onto the Windows.
I was under the impression it basically wasn't run anymore. Maybe a person would write maybe once a week for it. And this is a website used to be active 5 times a day a few years ago.
Yeah, I was on it when it was like that. Let's have a look. I'm just calling up now because there was not the last.
There isn't so much to watch anymore. But to be honest, in general, I don't really watch Microsoft in the news so much. There isn't really much to watch. If you do look at the news, and some people have done surveys, I mean, you have more about Facebook than about Microsoft now, which is pretty amazing, because you think about all the diversity in all these areas where Microsoft operates, they still don't manage to get the press, and sometimes they actually hide the brand. Things like the Bing search engine or decision engine, whatever they want to call that, they try to hide, and this is something that a person did a whole post about. If you look around the pages, they actually almost try to hide the name Microsoft from you, as if it's something to be ashamed of. And that's just almost a truism now for some services. They don't want to be associated with them because it's not a good brand, at least for certain things, and so.
Well, I can actually throw some light on what I've just said now, and I've actually found a quote. This is actually from the Microsoft Watch site, and this has come from Microsoft, I believe, and it says developers. This is in respect to Windows Phone 7. Developers can expect the first payout of sales to date to take place in February. That's February 2011.